Welcome. We're looking at the Requirements Elicitation Techniques, which are based around applying creativity. The creativity techniques around requirement elicitation are typically used when innovation or creative ideas are required when requirements are formed. This type of elicitation is typically used with high-level requirements, scope definition sessions, or abstract-type concepts. Let's now look at 4 different creativity techniques: brainstorming, brainstorming paradox, change of perspective, analogy techniques. Brainstorming. This requirements elicitation technique is applied within a group format. It is best applied when you have a large group of stakeholders in the workshop at the same time. When you apply this technique, you need to divide the group into smaller groups of 5 to 10 people, who then start to generate creative ideas within a specified time frame for a particular topic or business problem. These ideas are collected without discussion and then again shared amongst other participants who will come up with more ideas based on the previous group's ideas. In this way, the requirements engineer collects a vast number of ideas for analysis, and often, this type of brainstorming elicitation creates innovative and surprisingly productive solutions. When does it work and when doesn't it work? This technique works really well when you have a very diverse group of stakeholders from different business domains, and you need a lot of creative ideas to stimulate the requirements elicitation for a particular project. Sometimes, when the stakeholder group doesn't have a very good group dynamic, or where there are a few very strong personalities in the room, this technique might not work that well. In this case, you should consider using one of the other requirements elicitation techniques, which doesn't require spontaneous group-based interaction. The brainstorming paradox. The brainstorming paradox is an alternative interpretation from the traditional brainstorming technique, which we just discussed. The difference with this technique is that the groups are asked to come up with ideas of things that should not happen. After these ideas have been collected, the groups then work on measures to prevent this from happening. This is a great technique to apply in a project scenario, where projects need to be identified and measures developed. The same type of situations in terms of stakeholder dynamics applies to this technique. So only apply this technique when you believe the stakeholders in the groups will contribute freely and creatively. Different perspective, or better known as de Bono's 6 thinking hats. The 6 thinking hats is a very popular method which is all about getting the stakeholders in the room to wear a pretend hat. Each hat is a different perspective. Like, for example, there is a positive hat and a hat for caution. There is a hat for creative thinking and another for process and control. There is a hat for emotions, intuitions, and feelings, and then there is a hat for data and facts. Each person in a group of 6 will get the chance to wear this hat when the group discusses a problem or requirement. This way, people are forced to think in a different way using the different perspectives. This technique is a great way to come up with creative ideas and requirements for challenging business needs or problems. It places different views on the same problem or requirement under discussion, which generates further ideas and solutions. The disadvantage with this technique is that it doesn't work that well with a low level of detailed requirements elicitation, because this will be very time-consuming and end up being counterproductive. The analogy technique. This technique is not used very often in business project scenarios. However, it is important for the requirements engineer to understand. This technique is about finding an analogous situation in nature to what is experienced within a project and finding the solutions that nature provides to a particular analogous problem. The technique is quite specialized and requires a great depth of understanding of the subject matter area and the problems that needs to be solved. It also requires that the stakeholders and requirements engineers are able to think in an analogous way. This technique can be applied with the stakeholders knowing the business problem before finding a solution in an analogous situation in nature, or they may only be presented with a problem in nature to find the solution that nature provides to it. Both these approaches can be effective and will create creative ways to solve business problems. In summary, we have discussed 4 main creative requirements elicitation techniques that you can apply as the requirements engineer. It is worth noting that there are a lot of alternatives and variations of these 4 techniques available, and it is always very important for you as the requirements engineer to understand the situation. Your objective for the requirements elicitation session and the stakeholders you have to work with before choosing which method to apply. I look forward to sharing the next topic with you in the next video.